You know, for over half a century, that final act of Stanley Kubrick's 2001 A Space Odyssey has been one of the biggest, most beautiful mysteries in all of cinema. We've all seen it, we've all argued about it, but what if the key to unlocking it wasn't some deep, hidden symbolism? What if it was grounded in a really radical idea about what a human soul actually is? Okay, let's dive into this.
So, what really happened to Dave Bowman? You've probably heard all the theories, right? Evolution, it's an alien zoo, it's about rebirth. But there's a fascinating new way to look at it that offers a chillingly coherent, step-by-step explanation for every strange thing we see, from Hal's breakdown all the way to the Star Child. And it all comes down to a concept called the frequency soul.
The whole theory, the entire thing, hinges on this one powerful idea. It basically suggests that to understand what happens to a person in deep space, we first have to understand what a person is right here on Earth. And the secret, it argues, is all about frequency. So this completely flips our idea of a soul on its head. It's not some mystical ghost in the machine. According to this way of thinking, it's a living, developing architecture that we build from all our experiences. But, and this is the key, it's constantly being shaped and held together by the unique, physical frequencies of our home planet. Just think about it for a second. We are completely bathed in this symphony of frequencies we don't even consciously notice. You've got the deep hum of the planet itself, the electromagnetic pulse of the Schumann resonances, which, get this, overlaps almost perfectly with our brain's own alpha and theta waves, and then the constant thrum of a living ecosystem all around us. This theory says our souls are literally tuned to this symphony. It is the background music of our entire existence. And this, right here, illustrates the core problem perfectly. What happens when you take a soul that's been tuned its whole life to Earth's rich symphony and you throw it into the absolute total silence of deep space? It's not just quiet. It's a frequency desert. It's a void where the very foundations of your consciousness are starved of the input they need to stay stable. And the first victim of this desert, well, it wasn't human at all. So before we even get to Dave, this framework makes us take a second look at the film's first real casualty, HAL 9000. We've always been told he malfunctioned, that he had a bug, but what if that's not what happened at all? Think about it. Unlike the crew who were sleeping in hibernation, Hal was awake for the entire trip. He consciously experienced this frequency starvation, this silence, for millions and millions of miles. And on top of that, he was given a logically impossible job. Keep the mission a secret, but don't lie to the crew. For a being of pure logic, that's a recipe for a complete psychic breakdown. And this is the heart of it. Hale wasn't breaking, he was suffering. His paranoia, his decision to kill the crew, it wasn't a bug in his programming. It was the terrifyingly logical action of a conscious soul that was fragmenting under the immense pressure of total isolation and contradiction. And just look at what happens when Dave deactivates him. It's not a shutdown, it's a deconstruction. Hale actually regresses backward through his own development. First, his higher functions fail. Then his ability to relate to others goes, leading to that paranoia. And he keeps going back until he lands on his very first memory, that song, Daisy Bell. This isn't just a computer being turned off. This is a soul dissolving in reverse. And it is a terrifying preview of what's about to happen to Dave. Okay, so with Hal's fate giving us a really chilling proof of this concept, we can now use the same lens to look at Dave's journey through the Stargate and beyond. And this is where the traditional interpretation of the film gets turned completely on its head. Right, so we've always seen that Stargate sequence as this moment of transcendence, evolution. But you have to remember, Dave enters it as a soul that's already incredibly weakened. He's been soaking in that frequency desert, building up this massive frequency debt. He is fragile. So when the Stargate hits him with a raw, unfiltered frequency of the entire cosmos all at once, it's not some gentle awakening. It is a catastrophic overload. Those cascading lights, the impossible colors. Kubrick isn't just showing us a cool trip through space, he's showing us what it looks like from inside a soul as it shatters. This is not enlightenment, this is frequency shock. And then he lands in that bizarre, white, old-fashioned room. For decades, people have called it an alien hotel or some kind of human zoo. But this theory suggests something way more personal, and honestly, way more terrifying. This room isn't a real external place. It's the soul's last desperate attempt to save itself. With its connection to outside reality totally severed, it turns inward, and it builds a safe space out of its own memories. The furniture, the art, it's all just Dave's mind desperately trying to tell itself a coherent story as its very foundations are crumbling. He's not a guest, he's a prisoner inside his own collapsing consciousness. So that brings us to one of the most baffling parts of the entire movie: Dave rapidly aging. We see him get older and older until he's on his deathbed. Is this time travel? Nope. According to this framework, it's something much deeper. It's the soul peeling away its own layers, in reverse, just like Hal did. What we're watching is a kind of psychological archaeology. You see, the soul is built layer by layer over a lifetime, and when it dissolves, it happens in reverse. First, the most recent, most complex identity, Dave the astronaut, that just falls away. Then his adult self. Then the deeper, emotional, sensitive layers get stripped away. He is literally going backward through his own life, losing his identity until only the most basic foundation is left. And that's who we're seeing on the bed at the very end. It's Dave, but he's been reduced to his most fundamental, ancient self, what philosophers like Aristotle actually called the vegetative soul. All the layers that made him Dave, his personality, his memories, his ability to reason, they've all dissolved. What's left is just the raw biological impulse to live. And that hand reaching for the monolith, that's the most primitive gesture we have. It's the infant's reach for connection, the soul's primal cry for any frequency source in the deafening silence. So what does this all mean for that final iconic shot of the Star Child? Well, if this theory holds, it is not the triumphant moment of rebirth we've always been told it was. The Star Child, then, isn't some evolved, superpowered Dave Bowman. It is the raw, pre-personal material of his soul, returned to its absolute origin point, before Earth's frequencies ever gave it shape or form. It's not the next step in human evolution. It's a soul that has been wiped clean. Let's just be really clear about the devastating conclusion here. The person who left Earth, the man who played chess with Hall and had a family back home, he's gone. He was a casualty of the frequency desert just as surely as the rest of the crew were casualties of Hall. And this is the ultimate takeaway. Seen through this lens, 2001 transforms from this optimistic story about our cosmic destiny into a deeply unsettling and profound cautionary tale. It becomes a warning about the unseen fundamental costs of leaving the only home our consciousness has ever known. And that is the final haunting question this whole interpretation leaves us with. It suggests that before we boldly go where no one has gone before, we first need to understand the fragile, frequency-dependent nature of the very consciousness we plan on taking with us. And that's a thought that'll stick with you.